On the morning of February 26, 1959, a search and rescue team led by student Mikhail Sharavin trudged through waist-deep snow in Russia's northern Ural mountains, looking for signs of 9 missing hikers who had vanished nearly a month earlier. The temperature was 40 degrees below zero, winds howled across the barren mountainside, and visibility was terrible. Sharavin was beginning to lose hope when suddenly, through the swirling snow, he spotted something orange poking out of a snowdrift. As he got closer, his stomach dropped. It was the corner of a tent. And when the rescuers dug out the snow and looked inside, what they found made absolutely no sense. The tent had been sliced open from the inside with a knife. The hikers' belongings were still there. Boots lined up neatly, warm clothes folded, food sitting on a plate as if they'd been about to eat it. But the hikers themselves were gone. And as the search team followed a trail of footprints leading away from the tent down the mountain, they realized something was terribly wrong. Because some of those footprints were barefoot, in the middle of a Siberian winter. What the rescuers would discover over the next 3 months would become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, sparking theories ranging from secret military tests to attacks by the abominable snowman, and the bizarre injuries found on the hikers' bodies would baffle investigators for over 60 years. But before we dive into today's story, if you love unexplained mysteries and bizarre historical cases told through immersive storytelling, then you're in exactly the right place. Because that's what I do here, and I upload new videos 3 to 4 times every week. So if that interests you, please tap the like button gently and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. All right, let's get into today's story, which takes place in the Soviet Union in January of 1959. Igor Dyatlov was a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnical Institute in Sverdlovsk, which is now called Yekaterinburg. Igor was an experienced hiker and outdoorsman, and in January of 1959, he organized what was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime. He assembled a team of 9 fellow students and experienced hikers for a grueling 16-day, 190-mile skiing expedition across the northern Ural Mountains. The goal was to reach a mountain called a Torten, which meant "don't go there" in the local Mansi language. Keep that detail in mind because it becomes significant later. The team consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all in their early 20s except for one older sports instructor who was 37. These weren't amateur weekend hikers. Every single member of the group was an experienced Grade 2 hiker, and completing this expedition would earn them Grade 3 certification, the highest level in the Soviet Union at that time. On January 23, 1959, the group departed by train and then by truck to reach the starting point of their trek. On January 27th, one member of the group, a student named Yuri Yudin, had to turn back due to severe joint and leg pain from a sciatica condition. It was a decision that would save his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued into the mountains. According to their cameras and diaries recovered later, everything went smoothly for the first several days. The weather was cold, but manageable. The team was in good spirits, taking photos, joking around, and making steady progress toward their destination. On February 1st, 1959, the group began ascending toward the pass near Kholat Syakhl mountain, a name that translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language. That evening, they decided to set up camp on the slope of the mountain rather than continuing down into the valley, where there would have been more protection from the wind. Dyatlov, as expedition leader, made the call to camp on the exposed slope to avoid losing altitude. They pitched their tent by cutting into the snow and ice to create a flat platform. According to their final diary entries and photographs, they settled in for the night around 8 p.m. The plan was to send a telegram to their sports club when they returned, letting everyone know they'd completed the trek safely. That telegram was supposed to arrive no later than February 12th. But February 12th came and went with no word from the expedition. By February 20th, the families of the missing hikers were frantic. A massive search and rescue operation was launched. On February 26th, the search team found the tent. Or rather, what was left of it. The tent had been torn open from the inside, not by an animal or an external force, but by the hikers themselves using knives. Everything inside was relatively undisturbed. Their boots were still there. Their warm coats and extra clothing were laid out. There was food prepared on a plate. It looked like they had been getting ready to eat dinner when something made them suddenly panic and flee into the deadly cold, cutting their way out of the tent rather than using the entrance. The rescuers followed footprints leading down the slope toward a forest about a mile away. Here's where it gets deeply unsettling. Some of the prints were from bare feet or socks. Others showed that some hikers had been wearing only one boot, in temperatures that had dropped to 40 degrees below zero. About a mile from the tent, near the tree line, the searchers found the first two bodies lying near the remains of a small fire. They were Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, both in their 20s. They were found wearing only underwear. Krivonishenko had burns on his body, and most disturbingly, had a piece of his own flesh in his mouth. He had bitten off part of his own hand. The medical examiner couldn't explain why. Over the next few days, 3 more bodies were found scattered on the slope between the forest and the tent. All 3, including expedition leader Igor Dyatlov, appeared to have been trying to make their way back up to the tent when they collapsed and died from hypothermia. But the real mystery was still buried under the snow. It took until May, after the spring thaw began, for searchers to find the remaining 4 bodies. They were discovered in a ravine about 75 meters deeper into the forest, buried under 4 meters of snow, and the condition of these bodies made investigators truly disturbed. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had severe skull damage. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov both had major chest fractures with multiple broken ribs, injuries that medical examiners said were consistent with the force of a high-speed car crash. But there were no external wounds. The force that caused these injuries had come from inside, as if they'd been subjected to massive internal pressure. And here's what made it even stranger. Dubinina was found missing her tongue, both eyes, part of her lips, and facial tissue. One body showed signs that the others had taken clothes from the deceased. Dubinina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krivonishenko's wool pants, suggesting she had taken them after he died. And perhaps most bizarre of all, some of the clothing worn by Dubinina and another hiker named Kholat tested positive for radiation. The Soviet authorities investigated for 3 months before abruptly closing the case in May 1959. Their official conclusion? The hikers died from a compelling natural force. That was it. No specifics, no clear explanation. The case files were sealed and sent to a secret archive. For over 60 years, the Dyatlov Pass incident, named after the expedition leader, became Russia's most enduring unsolved mystery, spawning countless theories. Some people blamed a Yeti or abominable snowman attack. Others suggested secret military weapons testing, particularly because of the radiation found on the clothing. There were theories about infrasound from wind causing panic and hallucinations. Some speculated about a conflict with local Mansi tribesmen, even though the Mansi were peaceful and had no motive. UFO theories emerged because local residents reported seeing strange orange spheres floating in the sky that night. For decades, none of these theories could fully explain all the evidence. Then, in 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation at the request of the victims' families. Around the same time, two Swiss scientists, Johann Gaume and Alexander Puzrin, began studying the case from a purely scientific perspective. In 2021, they published their findings in a peer-reviewed journal, and their theory finally made sense of nearly everything. They proposed that a rare type of delayed slab avalanche had struck the tent hours after the hikers went to sleep. When the hikers cut into the slope to create a flat platform for their tent, they destabilized the snowpack. Combined with strong katabatic winds, extremely powerful cold air winds that rush down mountainsides, more snow accumulated above the tent throughout the evening. Around 9 to 12 hours after they pitched the tent, a slab of compacted snow broke loose and crashed down onto the tent with tremendous force. The impact wasn't enough to kill them, but it caused severe injuries to some hikers and created a moment of absolute terror. Thinking a much larger avalanche was coming, which is what any experienced winter hiker would fear, they made the split-second decision to cut their way out of the tent and flee downslope to safety. This was actually the correct decision in an avalanche situation. But the second avalanche never came. If they had stayed with the tent, they might have survived by digging it out. Instead, inadequately dressed and injured, they tried to wait out what they thought was an ongoing avalanche danger. Some started a fire. Others apparently dug a snow den in the ravine for shelter, which may have collapsed, causing the severe crushing injuries. Scavenging animals likely took the eyes and tongue from bodies that had been exposed for months. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most studied and debated mysteries in outdoor recreation history. While the 2021 slab avalanche theory is now the most scientifically accepted explanation, some questions remain unanswered. The case has been featured in dozens of documentaries, books, and films. The area is now known as Dyatlov Pass in honor of the lost expedition. And for anyone who ventures into the backcountry in winter, this tragedy serves as a haunting reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in extreme environments, and how a single decision made in a moment of panic can mean the difference between life and death. The 9 hikers thought they were making the right choice by fleeing the tent. They couldn't have known they were running toward their doom. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, I've got another historical mystery you need to see. Click the video on your screen right now about the man who was found reincarnated as a toddler remembering his death in World War II. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see ya.